The birthday candles flicker, two tiny flames dancing in the dim, expensive light of the restaurant. They cast trembling shadows across the untouched glass of Cabernet that sits before me, its deep red color as still as a frozen lake. For the 11th time in 30 minutes, I check my phone. The screen glows, bright and empty. No calls, no texts, nothing. My fingernail taps a frantic rhythm against the glass, a sound that syncs perfectly with the growing, hollow ache in my chest. "Should we wait a bit longer for your guests, Miss Lewis?" I look up. The waiter hovers at the edge of my table, his face a roadmap of polite sympathy. He's a man in his late 50s, with kind lines etched around his eyes, and he has mastered the art of looking concerned without being intrusive. His gaze flickers from the 4 empty chairs surrounding me to the small, perfect chocolate cake centered on the crisp white tablecloth, then back to my face. "Just another 15 minutes, please." I manage a smile that feels brittle, like a sugar sculpture about to shatter. It's the 3rd time I've asked for an extension. We both know what it means. I smooth down the front of my emerald silk blouse, the one I splurged on last week, specifically for tonight. The fabric whispers beneath my fingertips, cool and expensive, a silent testament to a victory no one is here to witness. Around me, the restaurant, Ellison's, is alive. It's downtown Denver's newest culinary hotspot, a place humming with the sounds of celebration. Couples murmur and laugh, their heads bent close together over shared plates. Silverware clinks against fine china. Somewhere behind the polished bar, a cork pops from a bottle of champagne, followed by a ripple of joyous laughter. The sounds swirl around me, a symphony of connection and joy, while I sit marooned at my island of solitude. A table for 5, with only one occupant. 2 weeks ago, I had booked this table, riding a tidal wave of triumph. After 3 years of 18-hour workdays, of second mortgaging my condo, of pouring every ounce of my soul into a dream, someone had finally believed in me. I had secured $1.2 million in angel investment for Verdant Alchemy Co., my natural skincare startup. It was the validation I had craved, the proof that the sacrifice had been worth it. Family dinner at Ellison's to celebrate my birthday and some big news. I'd texted our family group chat. "Thursday at 7. I'll make reservations for 5. 3 days passed. The message sat there, marked as read by all 3 of them, Mom, Dad, and my younger brother, Theodore. Silence. I sent a friendly reminder. "Just confirming dinner this Thursday at Ellison's. Let me know if you can make it so I can finalize the numbers." Another 2 days of digital silence. My follow-up felt more like a plea. "Table for 5 is reserved for 7 p.m. Thursday. Hope to see everyone there." Nothing. My throat tightens, a familiar sensation like swallowing glass. I take a sip of water, the ice cubes clinking against my teeth. This shouldn't surprise me. It's a pattern woven into the fabric of my life, a recurring theme in the story of the Lewis family. When I was 16 and Theodore was 14, Dad took him on a 2-week fishing trip to Montana. Just the 2 of them. When I asked why I wasn't invited, why I was left behind to water the plants and check the mail, Dad had patted my head with that distracted air of his. "He's a boy, Farrah," he'd said, as if that explained everything. "He needs this kind of investment. You just need stability." That stability, apparently, meant me. At 22 and drowning in student loans, co-signing Theodore's $18,000 loan for a gleaming cherry red motorcycle he couldn't afford. 6 months later, when he conveniently forgot to make the payments, I covered them. Every single one. I chose to eat ramen noodles for a year rather than let my freshly minted credit score collapse. Dad had thanked me with a distracted nod, his attention already focused on helping Theodore install custom exhaust pipes on the very bike I was paying for. I've always been there for them, just not in the ways that mattered to me, not in the ways that made me feel seen. "Excuse me." I look up from my glass to see a man standing beside my table. He's tall, with a cascade of salt and pepper hair, and kind, intelligent eyes behind tortoiseshell glasses. He's wearing a charcoal suit that looks like it was tailor-made for his broad shoulders, and he carries a worn leather portfolio under one arm. "I don't mean to intrude," he says, his voice warm and rich, like aged whiskey. "But I couldn't help but notice it might be your birthday." He gestures with a subtle nod toward the small cake with its unlit candles. My fingers clench around the delicate stem of my wine glass. "It is." "May I wish you a happy birthday, then?" My instinct is to politely dismiss him, to retreat back into my carefully managed solitude. But instead, I hear a voice that sounds like mine say, "Thank you." He hesitates for a beat, a flicker of consideration in his eyes. "Would you mind if I joined you for a moment, just until your other guests arrive?" There's something in his expression, a genuine kindness, completely devoid of pity, that makes me nod before I can second-guess myself. "I'm Farrah." "Alexander," he replies, a smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. He settles into the chair across from me, the one meant for my father, and sets his portfolio on the table. "I'm a writer. Books about resilience, mostly." He smiles again, a little wider this time. "Though I suspect you already know something about that." A small, surprised laugh escapes me. "What makes you say that?" "The way you hold yourself," he says, his gaze steady and perceptive. "Like someone who's familiar with waiting, and with disappointment, but hasn't been broken by either. Are you always this perceptive with strangers?" "Occupational hazard." He gestures toward the waiter, who approaches with a lighter, sensing a shift in the evening's narrative. "May I?" Alexander asks me. I nod. The waiter lights the 2 candles on my cake. Their tiny flames dance, reflecting in Alexander's glasses as he looks at me. "So," he asks, his voice gentle, "what brought you here tonight, all dressed up and waiting so patiently?" I hesitate, the familiar urge to protect my family, to create a more palatable fiction rising in my throat. But then I look at this kind stranger, at the flickering candles, at the empty chairs, and decide the truth is simpler. "I just secured a major investment for my company," I say, the words feeling real for the first time tonight. "I thought my family might want to celebrate." "Ah," he nods, a universe of understanding in that single sound. "And they're running late?" "They're not coming." The words taste bitter, like coffee left too long on the burner. "They didn't even respond to my messages." Alexander leans forward, resting his forearms on the table. His focus is absolute. "Then they are missing something truly extraordinary. Tell me about this company that earned such an impressive investment." For a moment, I consider deflecting, changing the subject. But then something inside me, a part that has been silent for far too long, shifts. Why not enjoy this birthday, despite their absence? Why not share my triumph with someone who actually seems to want to hear it? "Verdant alchemy," I say, and for the first time all night, a genuine smile spreads across my face, warming me from the inside out. "We make natural skincare products. Everything is sourced from sustainable organic farms right here in Colorado." I find myself pulling out my phone, not to check for messages, but to show him our sleek website, the beautiful product photos, our best-selling facial serum. "We're planning to expand our production facilities with the new funding. Go national." "Remarkable," Alexander says, studying the images on my phone. When he looks up, The admiration in his eyes feels like warm sunshine after a week of cold rain. "Someone should be celebrating your brilliance tonight, Farrah." His words unlock something deep in my chest. As I lean forward to blow out the candles, I make a different wish than the one I had planned. I don't wish for my family's approval anymore. I wish for the strength to stop waiting for it. "I won't wait for their approval anymore," I whisper, more to myself than to him. "The hardest lesson," Alexander says softly, as if hearing the thought behind my words, "is learning that some people simply cannot give you what they don't possess themselves." The waiter returns with 2 small plates and forks for the cake. As I cut into the rich, dark chocolate, I find myself telling this stranger everything. I tell him about Theodore's motorcycle, about the decades of showing up for a family that rarely, if ever, showed up for me, about building my company from the ground up while my parents poured their attention and resources into my brother's endless series of failed ventures. "The strange thing is," I say, the confession surprising even myself, "I think a part of me still loves them, despite everything." "Love and boundaries are not mutually exclusive, Farrah," Alexander replies, his voice a calm anchor in the storm of my emotions. "In fact, the healthiest love requires them." As we share my birthday cake beneath the warm, golden lights of the restaurant, I realize that a stranger's kindness has made this birthday more meaningful than any family celebration ever could have. For the first time in years, I feel truly seen. And suddenly, that's more than enough. Morning sunlight spills across my balcony, turning the rim of my coffee cup a brilliant gold as I breathe in the crisp, bolder air. 3 years have passed since that night. 3 years since a stranger named Alexander sat down at my empty table and changed the trajectory of my life. The universe, it seems, rewards quiet determination with a strange and beautiful abundance. If you're new here, please subscribe to our channel for more real stories like this. My phone chirps with a notification. Another media outlet has shared yesterday's interview, the one where I detailed Verdant Alchemy's journey from my kitchen counter to a stunning $35 million valuation. The view count has already crossed 500,000. I take a slow sip of coffee, savoring the rich Colombian roast Alexander introduced me to last winter. "The new face of natural beauty," one of the top comments reads. If only they knew how unnatural my own family could be. My phone buzzes again, this time with a call. The name on the screen, Mom, makes my stomach clench into a familiar tight knot. We've barely spoken in 3 years, not beyond obligatory holiday texts and a few stilted coffee meetings where the conversation skimmed the surface of our lives like a stone skipping over deep water. I consider letting it go to voicemail, but a tired curiosity wins out. I slide my finger across the screen. "Farrah, honey." Her voice is syrupy sweet, a tone I haven't heard since my high school graduation. "Did you see my messages? I've been trying to reach you." "No, I was just—" "Theodore's getting married," she cuts in, the words tumbling out in a rush of excitement. "Can you believe it? Our boy finally settling down with Jessica. She's a lovely girl. We'd love your help with planning the celebration, of course." I grip the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. The view of the Flatirons, usually so calming, suddenly feels distant and cold. "That's wonderful news, Mom. When's the wedding?" "June. Listen, sweetheart." Her voice drops into a conspiratorial whisper. "We've been talking, your father and I, and we think this would be the perfect time for a Lewis family collaboration." "Collaboration?" The word hangs between us like a fragile glass ornament, beautiful and completely transparent. Your brand, with our family name. Think of it, Lewis Beauty. Has such a nice ring to it, don't you think? We've always been your biggest supporters, you know. The lie stings more than a slap. It's a sharp, clean pain. My eyes drift to the copy of Forbes sitting on my coffee table, the one with my face on the cover. My biggest supporters. I remember the loan applications they refused to co-sign, the launch party they missed for one of Theodore's regional races, the years of silence. I'll have to think about that, Mom, I managed to say, my professional voice sliding into place like a suit of armor. Of course, honey. We're just so proud. Call me back this afternoon? We can brainstorm. After we disconnect, the phone immediately chimes with a new message. It's from Theodore. Hey, sis. Mom probably told you the big news about the wedding. So awesome, right? Also, my new racing team needs a primary sponsor for the upcoming season. Only $300,000. It would be great exposure for Verdant. Let me know. I set my phone face down on the table, the glass clicking against the wood. The panoramic view from my penthouse, once a symbol of my hard-won peace, suddenly feels isolating. They hadn't been interested in my life for 3 years, but now that my success was a tangible, marketable asset, they were all clamoring for a piece of it. Later that morning, I sit in the quiet of my office, the scent of lavender and chamomile from our diffusers usually a comfort, now doing nothing to soothe the storm inside me. I open a dusty folder on my laptop, one I haven't looked at in years, and begin reviewing old family photos. There's Theodore at his high school graduation, Mom and Dad beaming on either side of him. There he is again, grinning beside his first racing car, my father's hand proudly on his shoulder. And there's my college graduation photo. Just me, alone in my cap and gown, holding my own diploma. They had missed it. They'd attended one of Theodore's regional races that same weekend. You know how important this is for his future, honey, my mother had explained over the phone, her voice tinny with bad reception from the racetrack. My phone chimes with a voice message. It's Alexander. Just saw your interview. Brilliant, as always. Remember who you became, despite them, not because of them. Dinner tonight? My treat. His voice is a balm. It clears my head. I close the photo album and open a new spreadsheet. I title it, Family Financial History. Line by line, I document it all. Every loan, every gift, every bailout. The $18,000 motorcycle loan. The 6 months of his rent I covered when he was finding himself after dropping out of community college. The $4,000 for Dad's fishing boat repairs after Theodore crashed it during a joyride with his friends. The numbers add up, a silent accounting of one-sided support. The total at the bottom of the column stares back at me. $47,850. This isn't about punishment, I whisper to the empty office. It's about boundaries. My CFO, Martin, a sharp man with an even sharper sense of loyalty, knocks before entering with the quarterly reports. Everything okay? He asks, his perceptive gaze catching my expression. Family matters? I say simply. Martin, if my brother or my parents reach out to you or anyone on the team about business opportunities or sponsorships, please direct them to me immediately. Martin nods, no questions asked. Of course, and just so you know, legally speaking, you have absolutely no obligation to entangle your family with this company. We can have legal draft a statement if you'd like. I know, I say, a wave of gratitude washing over me. Thank you. As he leaves, my phone lights up with a text from Rachel, my oldest friend, the one who'd held my hand through every crisis since kindergarten. Saw Theodore's FB post about looking for sponsors. Let me guess who he hit up first. They didn't celebrate you when you had nothing. Why should you fund them now that you have everything? I smile, a real smile this time. Rachel always cut right to the heart of things. A courier arrives later that afternoon with a small, flat package. Inside is a simple card. Alexander's distinctive, elegant handwriting graces the crisp paper. It's not a sentimental note, but a quote. Boundaries are not walls built of anger. They are the foundations upon which healthy relationships are built. By evening, I've crafted an email. It's polite, professional, and final. I attach the spreadsheet, the one detailing the nearly $8,000 in financial support I've provided over the years. Subject: Lewis Family Collaboration. Dear Mom, Dad, and Theodore, thank you for reaching out with your recent proposals. If we are to consider any form of professional collaboration, it's important we start from a place of full transparency and mutual understanding. I've attached a summary of my past financial contributions to the family for context. Before we discuss moving forward, I believe it's fair that we bring this balance to zero. Warmly, Farrah. My finger hovers over the send button. A wave of doubt washes over me. Am I being too harsh? Too cold? Then I remember my 29th birthday. The flickering candles, the empty chairs, the silence. My finger taps the screen. Sent. Mother's reply arrives within 3 minutes. It is exactly as explosive and familiar as I knew it would be. How dare you throw money in our faces? Didn't we raise you to be grateful? After everything we've done for you? This is disgusting. I take a deep, steadying breath and type my response, each word a quiet declaration of my freedom. I was grateful. I was grateful in silence, in money, and in tears. Now, I am grateful to myself for finally stopping. When Alexander arrives for dinner, he finds me on the balcony, watching the first stars emerge over the dark silhouette of the mountains. He doesn't ask about my day. He simply comes to stand beside me, his presence a ballast against the storm of my emotions. They don't want to celebrate me, I say finally, my voice quiet in the cool night air. They want to use me. And what do you want, Farrah? He asks, his voice gentle. I turn to face him, the city lights reflecting in his glasses. I feel stronger, clearer than I have in years. To stop confusing obligation with love. He smiles, a slow, proud smile, and takes my hand in his. Then that's exactly what you'll do. As we head inside, my phone chimes with a flurry of new messages from my family. For the first time in my life, I don't even look. I just leave them unanswered. The spreadsheet on my screen glows in the dim light of my home office. Family financial history. Each line item is a ghost, a small paper cut from the past that, when added together, represents a slow, steady bleeding of my resources, my time, my self-worth. October 2012. Cosign on motorcycle loan for Theodore, $18,000 liability. June 2013. December 2013. Covered Theodore's loan payments, $2,100. March 2015. Theodore's rent, post-dropout, $4,800. July 2017. Repair to Dad's fishing boat, $4,150. I lean back in my chair, the leather sighing softly. It's not just the money. It's the story the numbers tell. It's the memory of being 23, working 2 jobs and a weekend internship, my stomach in knots every month as I transferred money I didn't have to a bank to pay for a motorcycle my brother was joyriding, while my own student loan interest accrued. I remember the phone call with my dad about the boat. "The kid made a mistake, Farrah. He feels terrible about it. You're doing so well. We thought maybe you could help out." You're doing so well. It was the family mantra, a phrase deployed not as a compliment, but as a prelude to a request. It was never, "You're doing so well. Let's take you out to dinner to celebrate." It was always, "You're doing so well, so you can afford to fix this." A call from Rachel breaks the silence. "Okay, spill," she says, skipping the pleasantries. "Your mom left me a voicemail. Something about you sending them a bill? She sounded like you'd just set fire to the family Bible." I let out a dry laugh. "It wasn't a bill, Rach. It was a ledger." A summary of all the times Farrah's doing so well was followed by an open palm. "Oh, honey. The legendary spreadsheet. You actually sent?" There's a note of awe in her voice. "I'm so proud of you, I could burst." "What did Theodore say?" He texted me a single question mark, followed by 3 exclamation points. "Eloquent as ever," she snorts. "Listen, Farrah, this is the hard part. They're going to paint you as the villain. The cold, heartless, successful daughter who forgot where she came from. You have to be ready for that." "I know," I say, tracing the edge of my desk. But for the first time, I feel like I'm standing on solid ground. My ground. After we hang up, I pull up the email draft again, the one I sent to them. The attached file seems to pulse on the screen. It wasn't an act of aggression. It was an act of preservation. For years, my love had been measured by my willingness to give, to fix, to absorb. My bank account was an extension of their needs. My stability a safety net they felt entitled to. Sending that spreadsheet wasn't about demanding repayment. It was about resetting the terms of engagement. It was a declaration that my resources, financial, emotional, spiritual, were no longer a public utility for the Lewis family. My phone buzzes. A text from Alexander. "Thinking of you. Remember, their reaction is about the loss of their control, not the loss of your love." His words are a lifeline. He's right. This isn't a negotiation about affection. It's a power struggle they've just realized they are losing. I close my eyes and let the memories surface, not to torture myself, but to fortify my resolve. I see myself at my first art show in college, a small gallery exhibit for the photography class I'd loved. I'd called my parents, so excited. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful," my mom had said. "But it's the same night as Theo's go-karting championship. We can't miss that." I remember launching my first tiny batch of Verdant Alchemy serum at a local farmer's market. I'd worked for 72 hours straight, bottling and labeling by hand. I sent them a picture of my little booth. My dad replied with a thumbs-up emoji. An hour later, he called to ask if I could help him figure out a new software for his fantasy football league. These weren't acts of malice. They were acts of profound, heartbreaking indifference, a slow, steady erosion of my worth in their eyes. I was the responsible one, the stable one, the one who didn't need anything. The quiet, sturdy pillar holding up the crumbling arches of my brother's ambitions. The weight of it all settles on me, not with the sharp sting of fresh pain, but with the dull ache of an old injury. I stand up and walk to the window, looking out over the sleeping city of Boulder. The lights twinkle below, a sea of individual lives, of families with their own complex histories. This isn't about punishment, I repeat to myself, my breath fogging the cool glass. It's about truth. For a relationship to be real, It has to be built on truth. And the truth is, our family dynamic has been a one-way street for a very long time. The spreadsheet wasn't an invoice, it was a map, showing them exactly how far I had traveled for them, and a statement that I would no longer be making that journey alone. I pick up my phone and reply to Alexander. Thank you. Your support means more than you know. Let's get that dinner soon. Then, I do something I haven't done in years. I go into my family's contact information and change the notification settings. I mute their threads. Not a block, not a severing, but a quiet, digital boundary. I will choose when to engage. I will no longer live my life reacting to their demands, their dramas, their disappointments. A sense of calm, deep and unfamiliar, washes over me. The ledger is closed. A new one, written only for myself, is about to begin. A week later, the intercom on my desk crackles to life. The receptionist's voice, a sharp intrusion into the calm efficiency of my quarterly projections meeting. Miss Lewis, your mother and brother are here. They say it's urgent. My marketing director, Jessica, raises a perfectly sculpted eyebrow from across the polished conference table. 5 other executives pause their note-taking, their pens hovering over leather-bound portfolios. The air in the room, once buzzing with data and strategy, becomes still and heavy with unspoken questions. Tell them I'm in a meeting, Sarah, I reply, forcing a professional smile that feels like a mask. I'll be out shortly. The intercom clicks off, then on again, a second later. I'm sorry, Miss Lewis. They insist on waiting. They brought cake? A familiar tension coils at the base of my neck, hot and tight. My family never visited during the 3 struggling years when I worked 16-hour days out of a cramped, windowless office the size of a walk-in closet. Now that Verdant Alchemy occupies the entire 4th floor of a downtown building with our name etched in brushed steel on the directory, they've discovered an urgent need to see me. And they've come bearing a baked good, the universal symbol of a Trojan horse. 10-minute break, everyone, I announce, setting down my presentation pointer with a deliberate, measured calm. Greg, please prepare the international distribution figures for when we resume. As my team files out, their curiosity is a palpable force in the room. I take a deep breath, straighten the lapels of my blazer, and walk out to the reception area. And there they are. My mother, Eleanor, holds a white bakery box with both hands, as if it's a sacred offering. Her hair is freshly colored, the rich auburn she's maintained since her 40s, and her cream-colored blazer likely cost more than my first month's rent in that tiny office. Theodore stands beside her, hands jammed into the pockets of designer jeans, attempting a look of calculated casualness that probably took him an hour to assemble. Surprise! My mother trills, lifting the cake box slightly. Her smile is wide, but it doesn't reach her eyes. We were in the neighborhood and thought we'd stop by to celebrate your Forbes feature. We're just so proud. No hard feelings about, the recent unpleasantness. The receptionist watches with the undisguised curiosity of someone witnessing a live reality show. 2 of my packaging designers glance over from the break room, their conversation faltering. This is a performance, and my entire staff is the audience. How thoughtful, I say, my voice even, betraying none of the chaos churning inside me. Let's talk in the small conference room. As I lead them through the open-plan workspace, my mother's eyes sweep across everything, taking a rapid, silent inventory. The exposed brick walls, the custom Edison bulb lighting fixtures, the sleek workstations where my team creates products that have earned us shelf space in luxury department stores across the country. This isn't a visit, it's an appraisal. Theodore trails behind us, pausing to examine a glass display case holding our award-winning facial serum. You must be making a fortune from these little bottles, he remarks, tapping his finger against the glass. Just then, my marketing director, Jessica, emerges from her office, coffee mug in hand. "Jessica!" Theodore says, flashing the 1,000-watt smile that charmed his way through college and out of countless responsibilities. "Don't you look fantastic? Still handling my sister's advertising?" Jessica's professional smile never wavers. "Director of Brand Strategy now, Theodore. It's a pleasure to see you again." Her tone is polite, but there's an unmistakable edge of steel beneath it. She knows the history. She was there for the late nights fueled by cheap pizza and desperation. I guide them into the small conference room, away from the prying eyes and ears of my team. The door clicks shut behind us, and the sudden silence is deafening. My mother runs a manicured fingertip along the polished walnut tabletop. $16,000 for this table alone, I'd wager," she whispers, not quite quietly enough. I turn to face them, abandoning all pretense. "This is my workplace, not a family reunion venue. Why are you really here?" My mother sets the cake down on the table, a look of theatrical hurt flashing across her features. "Can't we simply visit our successful daughter without an agenda?" Theodore sprawls into one of the plush leather chairs. "Yeah, sis, don't be so suspicious. Lighten up." "The last time we spoke," I remind him, my voice dangerously calm, "you asked me for $300,000 for your racing team. The time before that," I say, turning to my mother, "you were hinting about the cost of Theodore's wedding, so forgive me if I suspect this isn't just a social call." My mother's expression hardens, the soft, wounded look vanishing. "You've changed, Farrah. Success has made you cold." "I haven't changed," I counter, remaining standing while they sit, a small but significant assertion of power. "I've just stopped pretending." Theodore leans forward, his charming facade cracking. "Come on, sis. We're family. That has to mean something." The word family hangs between us, heavy and weighted with history. It's weighted with the motorcycle loan I paid off while working 3 jobs, with the birthdays I spent alone while they cheered for him at a racetrack, with the silence on the other end of the phone when I called with my own small victories. "Yes," I agree, my voice steady and clear. "It does mean something. Family should mean love without invoices, support without conditions, celebration without calculation." My mother's eyes narrow. "After all we've sacrificed for you." "What?" The question escapes before I can stop it, sharp and raw. "What exactly did you sacrifice? When I needed a co-signer for my first business loan, you said it was too risky. When I worked 18-hour days to launch this company, you never once brought me a cup of coffee, let alone a cake. When I sat alone at Ellison's on my birthday, celebrating the investment that made all of this possible, your phones were apparently all broken at the exact same time." Theodore shifts uncomfortably in his chair. "That's not fair." "What's not fair?" I interrupt, my voice rising with a strength I didn't know I possessed. "Is using the word family as a currency to buy my compliance. I don't need a family only when I'm successful. I don't need a cake only when there's something in it for you." "We've always been proud of you," my mother insists, but her eyes dart toward the door. She's already calculating her exit strategy. "I believe you were," I say, softening my tone just slightly. "But I can't live my life based on a version of the past that we remember so differently. I will always love you both, but this company is not a family ATM, and my success does not create an obligation on my part." My mother gathers her designer handbag, her shoulders stiff with indignation. "I see we've caught you at a bad time." "Any time you come with expectations instead of genuine affection will be a bad time," I reply quietly. They leave with clipped, formal goodbyes and empty promises to call later. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I watch them cross the reception area, my mother's back rigid, Theodore's stride betraying his deep-seated frustration. The cake sits on the table between us, a sad, uneaten symbol of their failed mission. When the elevator doors slide shut behind them, I exhale fully, for what feels like the first time in an hour. My body is trembling, but my mind is perfectly, wonderfully clear. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Alexander. Coffee after your ambush? Heard through the grapevine. Proud of you for standing your ground. Word travels fast. Rachel must have gotten the play-by-play from Jessica. Another text arrives, this one from my business partner. I'm taking the afternoon meetings. Take some time if you need it. 10 minutes later, my mentor, Diane, calls. How are you holding up? She asks, her voice rich with the wisdom of a woman who has navigated these same treacherous waters in her own life. Better than I expected, I answer, and I'm surprised to find that it's the absolute truth. That evening, I draft a polite email declining to sponsor Theodore's racing team. I send a separate email to my parents, establishing clear guidelines for any future communication. My financial advisor helps me establish a trust, designated only for genuine, documented family emergencies, a firewall against their endless demands. When I'm finished, I pour myself a glass of Cabernet and stand at my penthouse window, looking out at the twinkling lights of Boulder. For the first time, I truly understand. Boundaries aren't walls built from anger. They are fences, lovingly constructed with the sturdy wood of self-respect. Later that night, my phone pings with a notification. Theodore's Facebook status glows on the screen. Some people only care about money, not family. Blood used to mean something. Already, mutual friends are tagging me in the comments, the digital gossip spreading like wildfire. My finger hovers over the keyboard, a dozen sharp, defensive responses forming and dissolving in my mind. Then, a new text arrives. It's from Alexander. Remember, your truth doesn't need a defense attorney. I set my phone down, turn off the screen, and choose dignity over drama. The chapter of my life where I apologized for my own boundaries has just ended. The story of living with integrity has only just begun. 2 days after the confrontation, the cursor blinks on my screen, a tiny, mocking heartbeat in a sea of white. I've typed and deleted the same response 14 times. Theodore's Facebook post glares at me from my laptop, each word a carefully crafted dart dipped in poison. Some people only care about money, not family. Blood used to mean something. The knot in my stomach tightens as the notifications continue to roll in. Friends from college tagging me in the comments, asking if everything is okay. 3 different acquaintances have already sent private messages, their words dripping with a morbid curiosity disguised as concern. Saw Theo's post. Hope you're doing all right, Farrah. Family drama is the worst. The living room window frames the Boulder Mountains, their jagged peaks bathed in the soft, forgiving light of early morning. I've been sitting here since 5 a.m., nursing a cup of coffee that has long since gone cold, thinking about legacies and lies and the stories we tell ourselves about family. Finally, my fingers move across the keyboard, slowly, deliberately. I type out 15 words, reading each one twice before moving to the next. Family isn't a debt to be paid. It's a place where love should be unconditional. I hope everyone finds that place, including me. My thumb hovers over the post button for what feels like an eternity. Then I press down. Done. No lengthy explanation, no counter-accusations. Just my quiet, unshakable truth. Within minutes, my phone begins to flood with a different kind of notification. Not the whispers of gossip, but a chorus of support. Friends from business school, former colleagues, even my third-grade teacher, Mrs. Gable, who somehow found me on social media years ago. Stay strong, Farrah. You're handling this with such grace. Been there. Sending you so much love. This resonates so deeply. Thank you for your honesty. I set my phone face down on the coffee table and breathe into the sudden silence of my apartment. It's strange. It feels like I've shed a 100-pound backpack I didn't even realize I was carrying. The landline rings, the number I give only to close friends and key business associates. Rachel's voice comes through, warm and steady as a rock. I saw your post. You okay? Better than I expected, I say, curling deeper into my armchair and watching a hummingbird dart around the feeder on my balcony. It feels clean. Clean is good. Rachel pauses for a moment. Just a heads up, though. Theodore has gone nuclear in the family group chat, and your mother called me this morning, asking if I could talk some sense into you. My laugh comes out sharper than I intend. And what did you tell her? That you were making perfect sense already. The smile in Rachel's voice fades slightly. Listen, they're making calls. Your father phoned James Albright from his Chamber of Commerce breakfast group. The hummingbird freezes mid-air, then zips away as a shadow passes over the balcony. Trying to damage control by rewriting history? Pretty much. Spinning a tale about how they've supported your business from day one, but you've grown distant and cold since becoming successful. I press my fingertips against my closed eyelids until I see stars. 22 investors believed in my company before my own parents did. They never even asked what Verdant Alchemy made until they saw my face in Forbes. I know, honey. I know. Just wanted you to be prepared. Oh, and your mother's church prayer group got a real earful about her troubled daughter who has forgotten her values. The familiar weight settles back between my shoulder blades. Right on schedule. After Rachel's call, I shower and dress with meticulous care. A forest green silk blouse, tailored black trousers, simple gold earrings. It feels like putting on armor for the day ahead. My assistant, Emma, meets me at the office door, a fresh coffee extended like a shield. 3 more calls from someone named Theodore Lewis, she says, her expression carefully neutral. Should I continue to block the number? Yes, please, Emma. Thank you. I accept the coffee with a grateful nod. Any messages from our investors? Emma's expression shifts, a flicker of concern in her eyes. Mr. Harrington from Keystone Capital called. He said your brother contacted him directly. Something about concerns over company stability. He sounded more confused than anything else. A hot flash of fury races across my face. My fingers tighten around the warm cup. Theodore actually contacted my investors? The violation of that boundary is staggering. It's a desperate, reckless move. Emma, please call Mr. Harrington back immediately. Schedule a lunch. Today, if he's available. 2 hours later, I'm sitting across from James Harrington at Ellison's, the very same restaurant where this whole journey began 4 years ago. The irony is so thick I could cut it with a steak knife. I appreciate you making time for me on such short notice, James. I begin, meeting his gaze directly. I understand my brother contacted you. James, a shrewd man in his 60s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, nods slowly. He leans back in his chair, his gray eyebrows knitting together. He did. Said something about family troubles affecting business decisions. Sounded like he was trying to warn me off. He studies me over the top of his reading glasses. Frankly, Farrah, it was not very professional. No, I agree, my voice calm. It wasn't. Family and business are, and always have been, separate entities in my world, James. Good. He unfolds his napkin with deliberate care and lays it across his lap. The quarterly reports speak for themselves. A 28% growth in a volatile market doesn't lie. Your leadership is sound. The knot in my stomach loosens its grip. Thank you for your continued confidence. Your brother, James says, choosing his words carefully, seemed to think he was entitled to your success. Mentioned something about a family collaboration being owed to him. Owed. The word hangs in the air. I don't flinch. There will be no collaboration, James. Smart call, he says, finally picking up his menu. Now, shall we order? I hear the salmon is excellent. Back at the office, a sense of renewed purpose flows through me. I pull up the application form for the Verdant Foundation, my newest project, a grant program to support young, female entrepreneurs who are struggling to get their ideas off the ground. The blinking cursor is steady now, no longer mocking. I fill in the final details and press the launch button on the website. Later that evening, I receive a notification that my donation to the Colorado Motorcycle Safety Initiative has been processed. $20,000. Anonymous. No press release. No social media fanfare. Just a quiet action. A private closing of a painful chapter. My phone buzzes with a message from my father. Your mother is devastated. This public humiliation is beneath you, Farrah. I set the phone aside without responding and pour a glass of wine. The Verdant Foundation website has already received 12 applications. My inbox contains 3 new interview requests from major business journals, none of them mentioning family drama, all of them focused on our company's growth and our new environmental initiatives. When the doorbell rings at 7, Alexander is standing there, holding 2 large bags of takeout. His eyes crinkle at the corners when he smiles. Thought you might not feel like going out tonight. You thought right, I say, stepping aside to let him in. As I pull plates from the cabinet, I tell him, Theodore contacted my investors. Alexander sets the food down on the counter, his expression darkening. That crosses every conceivable line. They didn't buy it, I say, a small, weary smile touching my lips. Turns out a consistent track record of professionalism speaks louder than desperate, unsubstantiated accusations. Of course it does, he says, unpacking containers of Thai food. Your restraint through all of this is remarkable, Farrah. Most people would have responded with matching fire. I shrug, but a warmth blooms in my chest at his words. Fire just makes more smoke. I'm more interested in clarity. We eat on the balcony, watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of amber and rose. My phone buzzes repeatedly. Texts from Theodore's fiancée, Jessica, now, saying they really need to clear the air before the wedding. I ignore them. Did you see the comment from Sandra Werner? Alexander asks, refilling my wine glass. The owner of Werner Racing, Theodore's primary sponsor? The very same, he says, raising an eyebrow. She posted on her own page, said she was reconsidering their partnership after recent revelations about character and professionalism. Apparently, your mother's version of events reached her, but it backfired spectacularly. I take a slow sip of wine. I never asked for that. You didn't have to, Alexander says softly. Truth has a way of finding its own daylight. As night settles over Boulder, my email pings. It's a message from my mentor, Diane. Proud of you. I'm leading a webinar next month on ethical business practices and navigating family dynamics in entrepreneurship. The keynote spot has your name on it if you want it. Later, as Alexander prepares to leave, he pauses at the door. You know they're only escalating because they're losing control, right? This is the death rattle of their influence over you. I nod. I know. I can feel the cracks forming in their narrative. Your mother called Rachel again, apparently. Less confident this time. Used the phrase, might have pushed too hard. Something shifts inside me. Not satisfaction exactly, but a quiet, profound sense of vindication. Did she now? And I ran into your father at the coffee shop this morning. He looked contemplative. Said something about wishing they'd invested in your company from the beginning. I lean against the doorframe, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. 4 years too late for that realization. Alexander touches my shoulder gently, but not too late for you to live your truth. After he leaves, I sit on the balcony in the cool darkness, my laptop open to Theodore's latest message in the now infamous family group chat. She's destroyed this family with her selfishness. But below it, a surprising new message has appeared. It's from his fiancée, Jessica. Maybe we should all step back and think about what we've been asking from her. I close the laptop without responding. Tomorrow will bring more drama, more accusations, more attempts to rewrite history. But tonight, I have discovered that silence too can be a form of strength. Sometimes, the most powerful response is simply to keep building your empire while others are busy trying to burn bridges. The voicemail from my mother plays for the third time, her voice a carefully modulated performance of wavering vulnerability. Farrah, sweetheart, I know things have been strained, but we're still your parents, no matter what. Some bonds can't be broken, even when they stretch. I press delete and set my phone on the kitchen counter. The late afternoon sunshine spills through my condo windows, painting warm, lazy rectangles across the hardwood floor. Against my better judgment, I picked up the envelope that had arrived yesterday. Heavy, ivory cardstock with shimmering gold foil edging. Theodore's wedding invitation. Tucked inside, a handwritten note on my mother's personal stationery. Time for family healing. We miss you. Mom and Dad. My stomach twists into a familiar knot. It's been 3 weeks of this new campaign. The first wave of anger and public shaming failed, so now they've pivoted to phase 2, the reconciliation offensive. It's a carefully orchestrated barrage of guilt-laden calls, texts dripping with apologies that somehow manage to avoid acknowledging any actual wrongdoing, and now, physical artifacts of their supposed goodwill. Just yesterday, Theodore's fiancée, Jessica, left a timid voicemail about building bridges before the big day. Is this seat taken? I look up to find Alexander standing in my doorway, his coat draped over one arm and a paper bag from Spruce Confections in his hand. My shoulders, which I hadn't realized were tensed up to my ears, relax at the sight of him. Only by ghosts and guilt trips, I say, sliding the ostentatious invitation across the polished granite counter toward him. The latest artillery in the Great Reconciliation Campaign of 2024. Alexander sets down 2 coffees and studies the invitation with the critical eye of a literary scholar. Quite the production. The wedding is at the Brown Palace? He muses. Someone's parents are feeling generous. Or someone's sister is expected to be, I reply, taking a grateful sip of the coffee he's brought me. Dark roast with a splash of almond milk. Exactly how I like it. And what about these? Alexander gestures with his chin toward a stack of photo albums on my coffee table. Albums I haven't seen in over a decade. FedEx delivery this morning, I explain. Family albums dating back to my 5th birthday, complete with little post-it notes marking special memories. I walk over and flip one open to a page flagged with a bright pink sticky note. The photo shows a 9-year-old me, grinning with a missing front tooth, standing next to a lopsided Christmas tree. My mother's handwriting on the note says, Remember Christmas, 1998? You were so excited about our family traditions. Subtle, Alexander says, his mouth quirking into a wry smile. As if on cue, my phone buzzes with another text. It's Theodore. Dad mentioned his blood pressure's been high lately. The stress of all this is really getting to him. Really hoping you'll reconsider coming to the wedding. It would mean a lot to all of us. Alexander catches my expression. More health concerns being weaponized? Theodore says Dad's blood pressure is up, I say, setting the phone face down. Last week it was Mom's recurring migraines. They're getting creative, I'll give them that. It's a classic pattern, Alexander notes, settling onto one of the kitchen stools. When anger doesn't work, they pivot to pity. How are you holding up through it all? I trace the rim of my coffee cup, thinking. I keep thinking I should feel worse about this. Shouldn't I be torn apart? Sobbing over old photo albums at midnight? And you're not? I just feel tired, I confess. Tired and strangely detached, like I'm watching a movie I've seen far too many times and I already know how it ends. I meet his eyes, worried he'll see me as cold. Is that wrong? Alexander considers this for a long moment, the afternoon light catching the silver strands at his temples. I don't think it's wrong at all, Farrah. I think it's clarity. After years of the same emotional script, you finally stopped mistaking familiarity for love. I don't want to hate them, I say quietly, the words feeling heavy and true. Boundaries aren't about hate, Alexander says, his voice gentle. They're about health. You can forgive someone for who they are without resuming the same toxic relationship dynamic. You can love them from a safe distance. Something shifts inside me at his words, a tightly wound spring loosening in my chest. Forgiveness without restoration. It's a concept I'd never considered. My options had always seemed so binary. Either give them everything they wanted or sever all ties completely. But perhaps there was a middle ground, a new territory I could map out for myself. What would a healthy relationship with them even look like? I ask, the question hanging in the air. Alexander sips his coffee. That's for you to decide. What would you need for it to feel safe and respectful? I'd never allowed myself to think about my own needs in the context of my family. It was always about their needs, their wants, their emergencies. But now, I let myself imagine it. Limited contact. I begin slowly, the words feeling foreign but right. Scheduled phone calls, maybe. Interactions in neutral public places. No more surprise visits at my office. Absolutely no business entanglements. And clear, stated expectations of mutual respect. No more emotional blackmail. Alexander nods. That sounds entirely reasonable. He pauses. But will they accept it? Theodore's wedding is in a month. The question isn't whether they'll accept it, Farrah, Alexander says, his gaze steady and unwavering. It's whether you can enforce those boundaries, regardless of their reaction. I straighten my shoulders, a new resolve hardening inside me. I can. Later that evening, long after Alexander has gone, his perspective still echoing in my mind, I sit down at my laptop. I draft an email to my parents and my brother. There are no accusations, no itemized lists of past wrongs, no lingering bitterness. It is simply a clear, concise, forward-facing statement of my boundaries. I outline the terms under which I am willing to re-engage with them as a family. I state that I will attend Theodore's wedding, but only as a guest. I will be there for 3 hours. I will not discuss business or past grievances, and I will be bringing a guest of my own. I propose a scheduled 30-minute phone call every other Sunday afternoon as a way to stay in touch moving forward. When I finally click send, something profound shifts inside me. It's not the giddy weightlessness of escape, but the solid, grounding certainty of someone who is finally choosing her own path. The olive branch they offered was covered in thorns, so I have decided to plant my own tree. The grand ballroom of the Brown Palace Hotel glitters around me, a century-old jewel box of dark wood, stained glass, and opulent chandeliers. A string quartet plays softly in the corner, their music a tasteful undercurrent to the hum of conversation. I hold a flute of champagne, the cool glass a welcome anchor in the swirling sea of the reception. The wedding ceremony concluded 30 minutes ago, a brief, traditional affair. Now, the real performance begins. Distant aunts and uncles I haven't seen in years circulate like curious fish, their eyes lingering on me for a moment too long. Friends of my parents, pillars of their suburban community, eye me with thinly veiled speculation. Alexander stands beside me, a quiet, steady presence in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. His hand rests lightly on the small of my back, a silent reminder that I am not alone. Theodore approaches, his new wife Jessica on his arm. He's flushed with champagne and the adrenaline of the day. "You made it," he says, a note of genuine surprise in his voice, despite the weeks of email exchanges confirming my attendance. "And you brought a date." "Alexander," I introduce simply, letting his name stand on its own. "Congratulations to you both. You look beautiful, Jessica." "Thank you for coming, Farrah," Jessica says, her smile seeming sincere. "Your gift was so thoughtful." My gift, a leather-bound book on financial planning for couples and a modest check, sits on the gift table alongside ornate crystal vases and silver serving trays. The card attached reads, "Wishing you a partnership built on mutual support and respect. Love, Farrah." "Listen, Farrah," Theodore begins, shifting his weight uncomfortably. "About the sponsorship for the racing team." Alexander's hand gives my back a gentle, almost imperceptible squeeze. It's the reminder I need. My boundary, no business discussions. "Today is about celebrating your marriage, Theo." I interrupt gently, my voice warm but firm. "Let's keep it that way." Theodore's jaw tightens for a fraction of a second, a flicker of the old entitlement before he gives a short, clipped nod. "Right, of course." He glances at Alexander, trying to regain his footing. "So, how did you two meet?" "Over birthday candles," Alexander answers smoothly, his eyes twinkling. He saves me from having to recount the sad, lonely story of that night at Ellison's. We exchange a few more minutes of pleasantries before they are swept away to greet other guests. I let out a slow, quiet breath. "Holding up?" Alexander murmurs into my ear. "Better than expected," I admit. I scan the room. My mother has been circling us for the past 20 minutes, like a beautifully dressed shark. As if summoned by my thoughts, she appears at my elbow. She is elegant in a pale blue chiffon dress, her perfume a familiar cloud of gardenias and expectation. "Darling," she says, her smile including Alexander, but simultaneously excluding him. "Could I steal you for just a moment? A quick family matter." I meet Alexander's eyes. "I'll be right back." My mother guides me toward a quiet alcove near the extravagant dessert table, her fingers light but insistent on my arm. Once we're out of earshot, her carefully constructed smile dims. "You look lovely, Farrah," she begins. "But I must say, your father and I were very hurt by that email you sent, setting terms for attending your own brother's wedding. It felt so cold, so transactional." I take a careful, steadying breath, refusing to be drawn into her narrative of victimhood. "I needed there to be clarity about expectations, Mom, for all of us. We're family," she says, wielding the word like a weapon and a shield. Family is supposed to support each other without conditions. That support needs to flow both ways, I reply, my voice remaining even. I love you, but I've learned that I have to love myself too, and that means protecting my peace. Something flickers in her eyes. Frustration, maybe? Or the dawning, unwelcome recognition that her old tactics no longer work on me. Your father and I won't be around forever, you know? The guilt trip is so predictable, it's almost comforting. I know, I say gently. And when you need me, truly need me for something real, I will be there in a heartbeat. But what you've been asking for isn't need, it's entitlement. She just stares at me, this daughter who no longer bends, who no longer breaks. For a moment, I see past the perfectly coiffed hair and expensive dress to the woman underneath, a woman who is terrified of losing control. I check my watch. 2 hours and 45 minutes. Alexander and I should probably be going soon. I have an early meeting tomorrow. My mother opens her mouth, a protest already forming on her lips. Then she closes it again. For the first time in my entire life, I watch her accept a boundary I have set, without pushing back against it. It's a small, silent concession, but it feels like a seismic shift. Will you call next week? She asks, her voice smaller than I am used to hearing it. Sunday afternoon, I confirm, for 30 minutes, as we agreed. As we walk back to rejoin the celebration, I spot my father, Mark, standing near the bar. He's watching me, a thoughtful, almost sad expression on his face. He's been a passive figure in this drama, a silent co-conspirator in my mother's campaigns. But in his eyes, I see a flicker of something new. Regret, perhaps. He gives me a small, hesitant nod. From across the room, Theodore catches my eye. He's standing with his new wife, his arm around her waist. Something unspoken passes between us in that brief moment of eye contact. It's not warmth, not yet, but it might be the beginning of a grudging respect. He raises his glass an inch, a tiny gesture of both acknowledgement and surrender. Alexander's hand finds mine as we make our way toward the grand exit. Ready? He asks. I look back one last time at my family. My mother, returning to my father's side. Theodore, leading his bride onto the dance floor. The whole constellation of relatives and friends, spinning in their familiar, predictable orbits. They will continue without me tonight, and I will return, on my own terms, another day. Yes, I say, squeezing Alexander's hand, a genuine smile, finally reaching my eyes. I'm ready. A year later, the birthday candles flicker in my kitchen, but this time, they are not a lonely beacon in a dark restaurant. They are a small, joyful bonfire, casting a warm, golden glow across the faces gathered around my marble island. Alexander stands beside me, his arm draped comfortably around my shoulders. His familiar, calming presence, a part of my everyday landscape. Rachel raises her wine glass, the ruby liquid catching the light. To choosing your family, choosing your future, and to finally getting the celebration you've always deserved. She toasts, her voice steady and sure. A chorus of cheers erupts from the small group. My chosen family, my business partner, Greg, and his wife, my mentor, Diane, and Rachel, my rock. My heart swells with a quiet, profound gratitude as I look around my home, filled with the gentle hum of easy conversation and genuine laughter. No empty chairs, no compulsive checking of my phone, no brittle smile pasted on my face. "Make a wish," Alexander whispers, his breath warm against my ear. I close my eyes, but for once, I struggle to think of what to wish for. Verdant Alchemy hit a $45 million valuation last quarter. The book Alexander and I co-authored, The Resilient Founder, sits proudly on my coffee table, its cover embossed with gold lettering. And most importantly, the gnawing ache of family disappointment has faded to a distant, quiet memory. I don't need to wish for peace anymore. I've built it. I blow out the candles in one decisive breath. "Same kind of chocolate cake as that night 4 years ago," Rachel observes, cutting a generous slice. "But a completely different energy in the room." "Different company makes all the difference," I reply, accepting a plate from her and meeting Alexander's smiling eyes over the countertop. Later, as our friends mingle in the living room, I slip away to my study. I open the top drawer of my desk and take out my leather-bound journal. I trace my fingers over the entry I wrote this morning. Love does not require the sacrifice of self. It's a truth that took me 33 years to learn, but it has reshaped my world. My family and I maintain a cordial, if distant, relationship now. We have our 30-minute phone call every other Sunday. I attend Christmas dinner for a few hours. Theodore and Jessica are expecting their first child, and he's been sending me awkward but sincere updates. My parents ask about my business without suggesting how I should run it or what it owes them. We've found a strange, fragile balance. It's not the close, warm family I once dreamed of, but it's real. It's honest, and I can love them from here, without surrendering my own peace. The doorbell chimes, pulling me from my thoughts. Standing on my threshold is a young woman in her early 20s, clutching a notebook to her chest like a shield. It's Maya, one of the 5 young entrepreneurs I'm mentoring through the Verdant Foundation. "I am so sorry to crash your party, Farrah," she says, her hands twisting nervously. "But I just got a partnership offer from my father's company, and I don't know how to tell him that I want to build something of my own." I smile and usher her inside. "Family business pressure?" She nods, her eyes downcast. "He's invested so much in me. I feel like I owe him." "Obligation and love are 2 very different currencies, Maya," I tell her, pouring her a cup of tea. "One depletes you, the other fills you up." As I sit with her, guiding her through the tangled emotions of separating her father's dreams from her own, I have a moment of startling clarity. I see how far I've come. The woman who once silently paid off her brother's motorcycle loan without complaint now teaches other young women how to stand up and claim their own worth. The pain of my past hasn't just been healed, it's been transformed into a source of strength, a well of empathy I can now offer to others. Later in the evening, after Maya has left with a renewed sense of purpose, Alexander finds me in the kitchen. He has lit a single, spare candle on the last remaining slice of cake. We stand side by side, our fingers intertwined on the counter, and blow it out together. "Do you ever wish they had shown up that night?" he asks quietly, his eyes searching mine. 4 years ago, at Ellison's. I shake my head, a soft, certain smile playing across my lips. No, because if they had, I would have kept waiting for a love they couldn't give. And I might never have met the man who taught me that the deepest kindness can come from a stranger, and that true family is a home you build, not one you're born into. We take our wine and step out onto the balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in strokes of fire and gold. The city lights are beginning to twinkle below, like 1,000 tiny stars emerging in an urban sky. The life I have now, this beautiful, peaceful, authentic life, wasn't given to me. It was earned. It was built, brick by brick, boundary by boundary, and it is all mine. 6 months after my birthday, on a crisp autumn afternoon, Sarah's voice crackles through my intercom. "Miss Lewis, your brother is here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says you'll want to see him." A familiar weariness washes over me, but it's fainter now, less potent. "It's all right, Sarah. Send him in." Theodore walks into my office, and for a moment, I don't fully recognize him. He's not wearing the designer jeans or the cocky smirk. He's in a simple pair of work pants and a navy blue polo shirt with a small, embroidered logo over the breast pocket. Lewis Custom Cycles. His hands are clean, but there are faint traces of grease under his fingernails. He looks tired, older, and surprisingly solid. He doesn't sit down. He just stands in the middle of my office, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "Hey, Farrah," he says, his voice quiet, stripped of its usual bravado. "Theo, what's this about?" I ask, keeping my tone neutral. He takes a deep breath. I sold the racing team. And the car. All of it." He gestures vaguely. "Turns out, I'm a much better mechanic than I am a driver. Or a fundraiser." A small, self-deprecating smile touches his lips. "Jessica and I, with the baby coming, we needed something real." I stay silent, letting him find his own words. "I opened a small shop," he continues, looking at the floor. "Custom bike repairs and restorations. It's good. I'm good at it." He finally looks up and meets my eyes. "Dad helped me with the down payment on the lease. Said it was time he invested in something that had a real engine." The news settles over me, surprising and strangely poignant. "That's great, Theo. I'm happy for you." "Yeah, well." He reaches into his back pocket and pulls out a crumpled envelope. He walks forward and places it carefully on the edge of my desk. "This is for you." I look at the envelope, then back at him. "It's not much," he says quickly, a flush rising on his neck. "It's $1,000, the first 1,000, from the business." He swallows hard. "I know it doesn't even touch but it's a start. I'm going to pay you back, Farrah. All of it." I stare at the envelope, at the greasy thumbprint on the corner. It's not about the money. It has never been about the money. It's about the acknowledgement, the gesture. "The motorcycle, the one you paid for," he says, his voice cracking slightly. "I sold it. A collector bought it. That's what's in the envelope. It felt wrong to keep it." Something in my chest, a tight, old knot I didn't even know was still there, finally dissolves. This isn't the grand, tearful apology of a movie scene. It's something better. It's real. It's a quiet, clumsy, honest attempt at making things right. "Thank you, Theo," I say, and my voice is thick with an emotion I can't quite name. He nods, looking relieved. "Okay, well, that's all I wanted to do." He backs toward the door. "Jess says hi, and Mom, she's learning to knit for the baby. It's a work in progress." He gives me one last, uncertain look, and then he's gone. I sit there for a long time, just looking at the envelope on my desk. It's not a payment on a debt. It's a bridge. A small, rickety one, maybe. But it's the first one he's ever tried to build himself. And it's leading in the right direction. A few weeks later, on a lazy Sunday afternoon, I'm on my balcony with Alexander, reading the paper and enjoying the last of the autumn warmth. The city hums below us, a peaceful, distant soundtrack to our quiet life. The mail carrier leaves a small stack of letters in our box, and Alexander goes to retrieve it. He comes back and hands me a single cream-colored envelope. My name and address are written on the front in a familiar, slightly shaky hand. My father's. I feel a tremor of apprehension. He never writes. Communication is my mother's domain. I slice open the envelope with my thumbnail. Inside is a single folded sheet of paper and a faded photograph. I unfold the letter first. The note is short, only a few lines. Farrah. Your mother told me Theodore came to see you. He's a good man, finally. You had a lot to do with that, even if you don't think so. You showed him what integrity looks like. I've been thinking a lot lately. About that fishing trip, about 100 other things. I thought I was teaching him to be a man. I realize now, I was just teaching him to be like me. I should have been teaching him to be more like you. I am so proud of the woman you became. Not because of the money or the magazines, but because you did it all on your own, when you shouldn't have had to. I'm sorry. Love, Dad. My breath catches in my throat. Tears blur the words on the page. They are the 2 words I had waited my entire life to hear, and I had long ago given up hope of ever receiving them. I pick up the photograph. It's from the early 90s. A little girl with a gappy-toothed smile and bright, hopeful eyes, sitting on her father's shoulders. Me. We're at a park, and he's looking up at me, his face full of a pure, uncomplicated love I had forgotten he was ever capable of. Alexander's hand comes to rest on my shoulder. He doesn't say anything. He just stands there, a silent witness to this quiet, impossible moment of grace. The apology doesn't erase the years of neglect. It doesn't change the past. But it opens a door to a different kind of future. A future where love isn't an obligation or a transaction, but a quiet, earned respect. I look out over the mountains, the setting sun turning their peaks to gold. The story of my life is no longer about the empty chairs at my table. It's about the people who choose to sit in them. It's about the bridges being built, stone by painstaking stone, over troubled waters. And it's about the profound, beautiful truth that sometimes the love you've been fighting for your whole life arrives only after you've finally learned to live without it.